It was meant to be the moment of truth, a promise made to the broken, the betrayed, and the forgotten. A national inquiry to finally expose the decades of horror, the systematic abuse of young British girls, and the authorities who looked the other way. But tonight, that promise is in tatters. Keir Starmer's flagship inquiry into grooming gangs is not just failing. It is in a state of catastrophic meltdown. And the very people it was meant to give a voice to, the survivors themselves, are running for the exit, screaming of a cover-up. This isn't just a political failure. This is a national disgrace unfolding in real time. And the scenes erupting in Parliament are nothing short of explosive. For decades, a dark stain has spread across Britain. In towns like Rotherham, Rochdale and Oldham, thousands of young, predominantly white working-class girls were targeted, groomed and brutally abused by gangs of men, predominantly of Pakistani origin. It was a scandal of unimaginable scale. But the horror didn't end there. When victims tried to speak out, they were ignored. When police officers tried to investigate, they were silenced. The entire system, from social workers to council leaders, was paralysed by a crippling fear. A fear of being called racist. They chose to sacrifice children on the altar of political correctness. The new Labour government, led by Keir Starmer, promised this would end. They promised a full statutory inquiry. No more secrets, no more lies. Just pure, unvarnished truth. That promise now lies dead. Just in the last few days, the entire inquiry has been thrown into chaos. 4 survivors who were brought onto a special panel to help guide the inquiry have now sensationally quit. 4 women who endured hell, who fought for years to be heard, have looked at the government's process and concluded it is a sham. One of them is Fiona Gaskell, a woman who has become a powerful voice for the voiceless. She didn't just quit, she torched the entire process on her way out. In a blistering resignation statement, she said the government's handling of the inquiry has created, and I quote, toxic and fearful environment with a high risk of people being silenced all over again. Let that sink in. Silenced all over again. The very crime the state committed for decades. These survivors are now accusing Keir Starmer's government of committing right now. Can you believe the sheer audacity? They are being failed by the system twice, but that's not even the worst part. What Fiona revealed next exposes the dark heart of this supposed inquiry. And what happened next will leave you stunned. Just hours after Fiona's explosive resignation, another survivor, Eleanor Reynolds, also quit in disgust. And she gave the game away. She revealed the real reason for this betrayal. She stated, and again I'm quoting directly from her resignation, that the entire purpose of the inquiry had been secretly changed. Its scope, she said, had been, quote, widened to downplay the racial and religious motivations behind our abuse. There it is, the smoking gun, the one single most critical element of this entire scandal. The fact that authorities were too scared to act because the perpetrators were from a specific community is being deliberately diluted, erased, covered up. The government is actively trying to rewrite the history of the crime before the investigation has even begun. It's a betrayal on a scale that is difficult to comprehend. It's like launching an inquiry into the Titanic, but being forbidden from mentioning the iceberg. And when these shocking revelations hit the House of Commons, the political firestorm was biblical. Conservative MP Lee Anderson, a man never known for mincing his words, stood up and pointed the finger directly at the Labour government, declaring, the cover-up continues. We have a Prime Minister who never wanted a national inquiry, a Minister who never wanted a national inquiry, and the Labour backbenches who never wanted a national inquiry. Does the Minister agree with me that the victims of these horrific crimes will never get the justice they deserve as long as we have a Labour government in charge? The cover-up continues. The minister forced to respond was Jess Phillips. She's the government's safeguarding minister. Her job is to protect the vulnerable. But her response wasn't one of compassion or concern. It was one of pure defensive fury. In a shocking retort, she accused him of doing it for clicks and said he should really question his own morality. Doing it for clicks?
Scam.
Question his morality? The survivors have just accused your government of a cover-up, and your first instinct is to accuse your critics of chasing social media fame? It was a shocking and revealing moment. A minister completely rattled, lashing out because she had been caught. But Phillips's angry outburst was just the beginning. The real bombshells were about to be dropped by other MPs, revealing just how deep the rot in this inquiry truly goes. What they uncovered was a staggering conflict of interest sitting right at the heart of the process. A detail so outrageous it feels like it was put there deliberately to sabotage the entire thing from the inside. Another MP stood up and laid out the facts. She reminded the House that this was about young white girls abused by men of predominantly Pakistani origin, and then she dropped the hammer. She revealed the identity of a woman acting as a key liaison officer for the inquiry, a woman named Saba Kosar. So who is she? You would expect her to be a fierce advocate for the unvarnished truth, right? Wrong. It was revealed in Parliament that just 2 years ago, this very same Saba Kosar described calling out the Pakistani heritage of the perpetrators as, and I quote, destructive, distracting and irresponsible. Let that sink in for a moment. The person appointed to be a bridge to the victims is someone who publicly condemned the very act of speaking the truth about who these perpetrators were. She was part of the problem, part of the culture of silence. And the Labour government put her in a position of power within the inquiry. Can you imagine being a survivor, finally getting your national inquiry, only to find out the gatekeeper is someone who thinks naming your abuser's background is irresponsible? It is a slap in the face. It's not just a conflict of interest. It's a declaration of war on the victims. How is this not a deliberate act of sabotage? And what was the government's response to this explosive charge, to this fox being put in charge of the hen house? Jess Phillips just shook her head. No answer, no apology, just denial. But another MP, Rob Moore, was about to corner her with a devastating piece of evidence he held in his hand. Moore stood up, holding a letter sent from the government to the Home Affairs Select Committee. He called the government's official response to the resignations completely unacceptable. He then exposed 2 deeply sinister lines of attack the government was deploying. First, he accused the government of implying that the survivors, Fiona and Eleanor, were spreading misinformation. These women, who were disbelieved and called liars their entire lives by the state, were being gaslit and painted as liars once again by the very government that promised them justice. But his second point was the one that blew the doors off the whole affair. The letter revealed that the Home Office was having secret discussions with Oldham Council. Yes, you heard that right. The government was in private talks with one of the very councils that needs to be investigated for its role in the cover-up to discuss the right approach for the inquiry. Rob Moore then delivered a line that will echo through this entire scandal. He said it would be like, and I quote, the Post Office inquiry sitting down with the Post Office to negotiate how they should be investigated. It's a perfect, brutal analogy. It exposes the entire inquiry as a rigged game. The government isn't investigating the failures. It's colluding with the failures. It's allowing the accused to help write the rules of their own trial. Cornered, trapped and exposed, Jess Phillips finally lost it. She turned on the MP, her voice dripping with contempt. Oh, he can hold up his paper and have a smug face, all he likes, she sneered. But the fact of the matter is that there is absolutely no council in this country who will tell this inquiry where it can and cannot go. The aggression, the defensiveness, the sheer panic in her voice. This is not the sound of a government in control. This is the sound of a government whose web of deceit is unravelling. She then tried to deflect, claiming the entire process is independently managed by a grooming gang charity. It's a masterclass in deflection. And it leads to a terrifying question. If the government is so desperate to control the narrative, what are they so afraid of us finding out? The answer to that is more shocking than you can imagine. The government's plan was to bury this story under a mountain of bureaucracy and political spin, counting on you to forget and the victims to give up. They were wrong. This battle is far from over, and relentless public pressure is the one weapon they truly fear. The comments section below is more than just a place to share your outrage. It is our digital town square, a permanent public record of dissent against this shocking betrayal. Let the world know exactly what you think of this cover-up. By ensuring you never miss an update from this channel, you become part of the movement that will see this fight through to the very end. We will not let them look away.